Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and in this case, taking a look at the cold steel Bushman, this nice knife that I have here. Now, this is one of the most economic survival knives in the market. I think it's honestly maybe the cheapest survival knife in the market. Now, having said that, there are other knives. I've often talked about some of the more economic options out there. Great Mora knife, made in Sweden, $9. Classic bushcraft knife. Is it useful also as a survival knife? Sure. The Glock survival knife or field knife, classic military style knife, bayonet. And these used to go for like 20, 25 bucks, a little bit more expensive now. But again, another great option, made in Austria, made in Sweden. But if we're talking about specifically survival knives with certain survival characteristics, this is probably the cheapest survival knife in the market. Made by cold steel, not in Sweden, not in Austria, but in China. Nothing wrong with that. It is an affordable knife, and as long as it's made to good standards, I don't have a problem with it being made in China, other than, of course, supporting the Chinese Communist government, which I'm not a fan of. But hey, what is not communist these days, right? Yeah, anyway, if I can buy something made in another place that I feel better about, I will do that. But, still, if you have a good knife, especially when it's from a company that has a well-earned reputation. If they make a product in China and it's quality made, and yeah, that's something I will take into account. For 30 bucks, give or take, and I'll leave the links below there for the knife available in Amazon, and I'll also leave the links for my books, Survival Skills and Surviving the Economic Collapse. The links will be there below in the description of the video, as well as the link for the knife. For the money, it is not a bad option, I have to say that. So again, cheapest survival knife, as far as I know, in the market because of these characteristics, these things that make it survival-ish kind of sort of knife, which is having a hollow handle, which allows you to put some kind of survival kit gear in there, which, yes, it is a thing, and it's if done well, it actually works. If you lose everything else, but you have your knife, you will have a little bit of gear in there once you put it together. This is like the working man version of the Aitor knife, that knife made in Spain, the famous Jungle King 1 and Jungle King 2. Those are great survival knives. They do have a hollow handle, but it's from a metal alloy that is super tough, and it's not your Chinese knockoff, a survival Rambo knife, no. But those things are quite more expensive. They're going for 100 and something, 200 bucks or so. So those are not cheap knives. This is for 30 bucks, you're getting a heck of a ton of knife. And you're getting it in the things that matter, meaning you have a nice big blade. This is what, 7 inches? Let's check this out. So you have 7-inch blade. There we go. 7-inch blade, which is about ideal, at least the way I see it, for a survival knife. Not too big, not too small. Overall length of 12 inches, about 10 ounces of weight. High carbon steel. This means it's going to be a 1055, 1060, whatever they got the cheapest. It's probably going to be something like that. Most likely 1055, which is what these guys use in most of their machetes. High carbon steel with it being that, and 2.5 millimeter. Perfect. That is exactly what you want, especially if it's going to be forged in this shape. And we have the cold steel logo there, brand, and China. And we have the Bushman, which is the homage it pays to its origin. It has a little bit of grease, which I appreciate. So it's a little bit of smudges of grease. It seems to be grease, not oil, which I like. I actually like grease better. It's more staying in there where it matters. So a little bit of grease there. But we have the Bushman. I don't know if it's from Africa or Australia. Either way, in one of these tribal communities, they have this sort of knife. It's I believe that's the origin of the design. these things that cold steel does, borrowing from different cultures, different countries, there are different styles of knives, and making their own interpretations. I don't remember exactly where it is, but it's basically tribal people that are known to have this format of knife. And it makes a lot of sense, given that with minimal resources, if you have a piece of metal and you want to do a knife, this is the most simple way of making a knife, which is you don't have anything else. You just have the piece of steel and you fold and forge the handle, and you're gonna have a very tough, durable, strong knife with nothing else than steel. You don't have to cut wood or micarta, drill, pins, none of that bullshit. No, just folded metal, done. It is surprisingly comfortable. At this point, even just by looking at a picture of a knife, I have a very good idea of, yeah, it's kind of makes sense. Yeah, it's probably a good knife. Then there's other things like heat treatment, and that particular knife, if it was heat treated correctly, usually when you have a quality brand, you kind of expect a decent job in that department. But in general, in terms of knife designs, geometries, and shapes and forms, after so many years, you kind of have an eye for things, and yeah, that kind of works. Yeah, probably something that will work because it looks very much like a Mora, or it looks like that other thing, and you, just by looking at it, I don't have to spend a month out in the field working with a knife to tell you if it's bullshit or not. At this point, I would be very poor at my job if I needed to do that for anything that I'm evaluating. But with this knife, it's a little bit different because this is definitely not something common. Your biggest concern is, okay, wait a minute, how comfortable is that thing? Now, by looking at the pictures, I thought that it was very well aligned. It was not like in some bayonets where just a piece of metal coming here on the side. So based on the pictures and the videos that I've seen in YouTube, it looked nicely aligned, and this looked very well rounded. So that, at least in theory, should make it quite decent. And it's surprisingly comfortable. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by that. The attention to detail and finish in such a simple knife, it is still noticeable. This is very well aligned. This is rather comfortable. The epoxy baked finish that it has gives it a little bit of traction. You could put some, tennis racket tape or whatever you want to, or paracord, or do some of your own thing here and make it a little bit more grippy. I think this is fine, man. I would maybe consider a little bit of that tennis racket tape so as to make it even more comfortable. I wouldn't mess much with it because it's fine the way it is. Also, if you notice this, it is a little bit thicker here than it is here. That is very clever. That reminds me a lot of some of the knives that I'm very familiar with, like my Argentine Facon knife, which has a little bit of a taper here because this means you have better retention when working and using the knife. So a little bit thicker here, great. Same thing happens in this knife. You have a little bit just thicker, and that works nicely for retention. You can choke on it very close to the blade. I would like to have maybe a little bit more here, but understanding how this has been probably shaped and forged into shape, you cannot have much of a guard there for your finger. So yeah, just be careful. If you start stabbing with this thing, there's a possibility that your hand will go forward like so. So just be a little bit more careful. Again, guys, $30 survival knife. And what is it that makes it, unlike some of the other knives, a specific survival knife? Well, as I said, the hollow handle for the survival kit, and in the same philosophy as the Aitor Jungle King, it is the ability of putting this into a stick and using it as a spear, which other knives have tried to go for as well. This achieves the same thing, and you have that hole there for a screw or a pin or a nail or whatever you put in place so as to keep it from getting loose from that spear you've just made, or even just adding in a little bit of a stick so as to use it more for chopping. That is also a possibility. It is nicely finished, everything, even down to the tip. That is surprising how well finished that is. And it has a decent edge. It is not great, but it will cut. That's all I can ask for a knife in this price range. Nicely aligned everywhere, nice shape, no complaints, beautiful. I think it is a fantastic, and you get your fire steel here. And some of the complaints I read about the sheath, dude, it is okay. It is a $30 knife. What else do you want? You want what? Swiss quality, Swedish, Austrian quality, well, go buy something else. This is a knife made in China for cold steel. And it's just a piece of folded metal, right? It is gonna be super tough, right? Everything can be broken, especially with this tip. You can break anything. But it is definitely a full tank knife that will take a decent beating. And I'm pleasantly surprised. Guys, if you wanna get the knife, I'll leave the link there below for you to get from Amazon, as well as the links for my books, which are available there as well. I think it's a decent knife. I'll do some other videos, having some little projects going along with it, maybe making a video on a survival kit to put in there and the way I would go about that. So subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell button so as to not lose that video when I have it done and upload it here in the channel. Guys, see you next time. Take care.